Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about the rise of land plants. As many organisms were diversifying in the oceans throughout the first 100 million years of the Paleozoic, the same could not be said for terrestrial life. Before terrestrial plants were widespread, these environments were probably pretty barren, or maybe populated only by algae, fungi, and cyanobacteria. Um, the first big step in the rise of land plants occurred in the late Silurian, when plants evolved vascular tissue. This means that they had one tube to carry water and nutrients and another to distribute food that the plants made. So this was really great for them for transporting all these things throughout their bodies, but also it provided another benefit that it supported upright plants. This allowed them to be taller, and this development of vascular tissue led to great evolutionary radiation in the Devonian. The first trees appeared later in the Devonian, and they were relatively short and seedless. They likely inhabited swampy environments because the plant reproductive cycles at the time needed habitats that were seasonally damp, and they made the first forests on Earth. So the next big step in the rise of land plants was the evolution of seeds in the late Devonian. Plants evolved internal fertilization processes and durable seeds that could sprout when the time was right. This allowed plants to form and thrive in previously barren, well-drained terrain. They no longer needed swampy environments. So some more evolutionary progressions that allowed trees and other terrestrial plants to thrive in the late Devonian were bigger roots and broad leaves, which increased the rate of photosynthesis. So land plants had a big impact on the biosphere, geosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. And one of the most obvious impacts of the rise of terrestrial plants was the rise of terrestrial animals following that, as the plants provided a food source for the food web to build upon. There is some evidence of land animals in late Silurian rocks, but many more came ashore in the Devonian, including vertebrate animals, which thrived in that time. Another big impact of plants on land was that they stabilized the soil against erosion. So this basically ended meandering river deposits in the geologic record in a lot of locations at the time. The takeover of land plants had devastating impacts on climate and the atmosphere. Plant roots and fungi associated with them released chemicals that weathered silicate rocks, reducing CO2 in the atmosphere in the process and cooling the earth. So these cooler climates caused glaciation and is proposed to have taken a big part in the Devonian mass extinction. Another proposed mechanism of terrestrial plants impacting the Devonian mass extinction is that deep roots release nutrients into the ocean, feeding algae and causing massive algal blooms. These algal blooms likely consumed huge amounts of oxygen in the ocean and blocked sunlight from reaching other plants, creating an anoxic environment and killing many species. So while land plants at the time may have had a devastating effect on some parts of the planet, we have the rise of terrestrial plants today to thank for the terrestrial life that we live and love.